I think we got the best seats in the house. So we're going to be speaking on communication. Communication is crucial. It's one of the most important things we do. That's how we relay a message. If we don't communicate, how do people know what we're saying, what we mean? Sometimes we want to do mind reading, right? It's like, you should just know. But you don't. If you don't clearly speak, if you don't communicate, you get misunderstandings, you get false impressions, and whatever it is that you're doing, you can't complete it. Communication is like a covenant practice. When you get married, you make a covenant under God that you're going to be true to your spouse, you're going to love them, you're going to help them, you're going to work together, right? And communication plays a huge role in that. It's crucial. We need to speak clearly. We need to be honest, respectful, and it builds trust. When you don't have trust, you lose a lot. It doesn't matter what you say. If you can't trust someone, it doesn't matter what they say, you're always doubting, is this true? Is it not true? So Gillette and I, we got to know each other. Our first interaction, I'll let Gillette to share about that, but just one spot on Matthew 5:36 talks about, let your yes be yes and your no be no. And just along those lines of trust, right, where when you say something, right, don't let there be that hesitation, is it really true? Is it not true, right? Just let it be clear. It's like when you say something, to the best of your knowledge, sometimes you're misinformed or you kind of forget, but to the best of your knowledge, what you're saying is true, right? And so that way when you say something to your spouse, it's easier to understand.
Yeah, so the first time we ever spoke was actually over a phone. So we were learning to communicate right from the beginning, I guess. So anyway, I was in Bible school in Chihuahua, and Isaac had come there to go see a friend, Henry Jansen. He was also my friend from Durango. And yeah, we were having a school fundraiser car wash that day at Bible school at a gas station somewhere a ways away from the school. And I just remember seeing Henry Jansen talking with a guy. I'm like, that guy's not from the school. And didn't think much of it. And then, I don't know if it was that same day. No, a couple of days later.
No, it was that same day.
Oh, it was that same day. Okay. Yeah, so the phone rang in Bible school, and I went to go answer it, and it was a guy, and I'm like, oh, this is that guy. And he asked about Henry Jansen. He just wanted to know some things, right? And it was just so interesting how that happened. And I remember right from the start, I was like, oh, yeah, I like this guy. There's something about him.
And I remember thinking after I hung up, it's like, wait, I'm in Mexico. I just spoke English. Because I called the school. I was like, is Henry Jansen available? And she's like, yeah, hold on a bit, or whatever she said. She's going to go get him, right? And there was a few words, but she spoke in clear English. And I was like, wait a minute, they speak English in Mexico? I was kind of confused because as an adult, I don't remember Mexico except from when I was younger, right? And so English wasn't the thing. Most of my cousins or people it was Spanish or German. And so now all of a sudden there's this girl. I didn't know it was her. I hadn't met her. I hadn't seen her. I had no idea who she was. She's just somebody that answered the phone. But it's kind of interesting that the first girl that I talked to in Mexico turned out to be my wife.
I knew that it was that guy, but I didn't know his name or anything about him. So, yeah, he did come to the school there after that, just visit. We would often get guests there. And so, yeah, I just remember he was talking with everyone, and I was like, I like this guy. And let's just say, now sometimes I tell him, can you please stop talking to everyone? Just talk to me. Yeah, but anyway, so shortly after I met him, back home I had a friend in youth who is someone I would have considered, and he had asked me to be in a relationship with him, and I had told him we would pray about it because in the back of my head, I remembered that Canadian that I had met at Bible school. And then I had asked Henry Jansen, like, can you give me his email? And so he did. I never emailed. I didn't even have an email, but I made one just so I could write that guy because we had talked about it. And he had asked me for one, and I didn't have one. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to have one soon. Anyway, and so we emailed back and forth and called, but I had no idea if he was even going to come to school the next year. But he did. I remember just seeing the lineup for food on opening day, and I'm like, oh, he's here. And that's all I could think about is, oh yeah, he's here. But let's just say it's really hard when you're in Bible school, and want to say I was there for the right reason, to focus on God and learn the things of God. But it's really hard to focus when I would see him every day. I tried so very hard not to let him know that I liked him.
And she tried so hard. I actually thought she was angry with me, and I couldn't figure out why. Because the idea is, right, sometimes people, they attend an event, and, sometimes if you're just thinking boyfriend, girlfriend, some of those things, yeah, there's a natural attraction between boys and girls. But, there's a time for that, and there's a time. And so the focus was there was nothing going to be pursued here. And realistically, she lived in Mexico, I lived here. It's not even an option. I don't even know how that would work. So we never pursued anything there.
Yeah, he told me later, so it would be me and one of my friends. We were not allowed to go in their dorms. They couldn't come in ours, but we could study together. And it was me and Helen Swatsky. We would usually study together, and he said he would come in there with his books and look around, are they in here? And if we weren't, then I'll go study on my own. I had no idea. Anyway, and so there at school, I knew I also had to give the guy from back home an answer, but I was scared if I would say no to him, what if this guy here from Canada will never ask me out or will never even like me? But I went for advice to one of the ladies there at the school, one of the teachers' wives, and she told me I had to be fair. I couldn't just say yes to one, or no to one, only wondering if I would get the other guy, like the one from Canada. It wasn't fair if I would say that. If, I'm only going to say yes or no to this guy that I knew, depending on if he will like me. I could not do that. I had to trust God. And so I did, and then it was after Bible school was over where he did ask me out, and I just remember I was on cloud nine. I couldn't believe it. And also my sister had a friend here in Canada, so she got to come visit that summer. And she said to me, she didn't think anything would happen. That Canadian guy there, she had come to church here and had seen him. She had thought he was way too good for me. She's like, he was all dressed up. He was an usher. I just remember thinking, oh, man. This was before he had asked me out, right? Just backtracking a little bit here.
All dressed up. Now she's like, can you not dress up a little bit more? So I guess in my one moment, somebody caught me, and that's the impression they got, right?
And I just remember thinking, how would a guy from Canada choose this girl from Mexico who shovels manure? And I don't know, I just felt like that just wouldn't be possible. He's way too cool for me. And I remember one of my friends from Durango was also here, and she called me. She's like, yeah, Greta, there's other girls here that like him. I just thought, it's never going to happen.
And I had no idea. I'm pretty relaxed, and she's going through all this internal drama, right? And just overthinking things. And it's like...
Yeah, but I just remember praying about it that summer before he had asked me out, and I just prayed and asked God, would you let this work? I had peace about this guy. There was something about him. And just the peace that God gave me and me praying over it. And so then when that school year was over, when he did ask me out, it was April 7th that he asked me out. May 17th he proposed, and October 7th we got married, all after Bible school that same year.
Yeah. And so with that, right, before I pursued any of this, I went and approached her pastor from the church she attended, and I approached some other older gentlemen from her area, because I was in Mexico during this time for a little bit with some friends, just to get some instruction, direction, just thoughts, right? It's like, if I was to pursue this, is this a good idea, a bad idea? Because I was 23 at the time, so I wasn't that young. But still, you need insight, right? To make rash decisions, a marriage commitment is a huge deal. And to just jump into something, it's like, so I talked with the pastor, talked with some of these other guys, we prayed about it, and it seemed like the direction was leaning towards, pursue this. But the final thing was her dad. Well, what's her dad going to be, right? And so I went with the walk with her dad, and just to see his thoughts on it, because it was going to be complicated, right? With me living here, her there, how that would play out. But I did get his blessing. But one thing he said, it's like when I asked him, he's like, "Of sein wollt dort nicht, aber jammern wollt mir dort eva are." It's like he wouldn't say no, but he would feel sorry for his daughter. I understand now why. Because he could already see that if we get married, there's a good chance that she is going to move to Canada. She's going to move away from her church, from her friends, and most people that she knows. Right? I understand that now. Back then I didn't. I thought it was just kind of interesting. Right? Because he could see it was going to be hard for her. And so, that's where getting insight, like meeting up with people and sharing thoughts and getting some feedback, what's good, what's not. And so if I wouldn't have communicated some of these things, just kind of kept them to myself, I wouldn't have got some of the insight and discernment that we did. Anyways, we got a little video we want to watch, and it kind of goes a little bit more into our next theme.
It's just there's all this pressure, and sometimes it feels like it's right up on me, and I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head, and it's relentless, and I don't know if it's going to stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me most, is that I don't know if it's ever going to stop.
Yeah. Well, you do have a nail in your head.
It is not about the nail.
Are you sure? Because, I'll bet if we got that out of there.
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm just pointing out that maybe the nail is causing...
You always do this. You always try to fix things when what I really need is for you to just listen.
See, I don't think that is what you need. I think what you need is to get the nail
See, you're
out.
not even listening now.
Okay, fine. I will listen. Fine.
It's just sometimes it's like there's this achy. I don't know what it is. And I'm not sleeping very well at all. And all my sweaters are snagged. All of them.
That sounds really hard.
It is. Thank you. Ow!
Come on. If you would just...
Don't.
Try to see things my way.
How many of you can relate to that? Your spouse is pouring her heart out, and you see the issue. You know how to fix it. You want to fix it? Let me fix it. But she doesn't want you to fix it. She just wants you to listen. Anybody here that sometimes a few? You know what? I didn't know this was a thing. So something I want to point out. So I put a bunch of extra books. There was some books. I put a lot of extra books here. You know why those books are there? What most of these books are related to? Marriage. Because there's things that sometimes we don't understand, right? We don't understand how we work. We don't understand sometimes how we function, how she functions, how I function. That scenario, it blows me away that that's a thing. That she wants to share her struggles, but she doesn't want me to help fix them. She just wants me to sympathize with her and just say, I understand. I'm here for you. You know what I mean? Don't try to correct whatever or fix whatever, but be sympathetic. But without some of this and things like that, I wouldn't know on my own how I can help my wife, how I can bless my wife, because it's not in my DNA, right? We have resources that can help us, right? We have the Bible that gives us a lot of instruction about who God is, the love of God, how he loves people, how Christ loved the church, and how we're to love our wives like Jesus loved the church. But there's a lot of little details that we don't have, and God gives different gifts, different insight to people, but it's for the intent to share it with others so other people can be encouraged and blessed by it. So I got a book. I opened the book, I read the introduction, and the introduction says, most likelihood, if you're reading this book, chances are your wife got it for you. I showed her the introduction. She got me the book. And it's like, I got into a little bit, but it's like, I don't know. I used to love reading, and sometimes it's hard to get back into reading. I've gotten more into it recently, but I do audiobooks. I do a lot of audiobooks. And so all of a sudden it's like, well, maybe I can see if they have it in audio. And sure enough, they did. And I was blessed by the book. I was challenged. And you know what? So the theme of the book, it's called Like the Shepherd, Leading Your Marriage with Love and Grace, right? Loving my wife in a God-honoring way, in a way that she will be built up and that God will be honored. On my own, I don't know how to do a lot of these things. But when you take the time and you glean from others what you can, you don't have to apply everything. You don't have to take everything, and it's not everything is for you. But there is things that you can learn from that you can benefit from each other.
Yeah, so I just remember the first time we watched that little clip years ago. It's like, yes, that's what I've always been trying to say to him, and I didn't know how to say it. It just helped us so very much. And there are also times when we had this just recently where I noticed something was going on, and I asked Isaac if he felt a little stressed, and he said, yeah, he did. And I was sitting there thinking, like, I just want to help him. I don't want him to feel this way. I was thinking, oh, I should tell him, just trust God. He's bigger than our problems. And I just wanted to say all this stuff to him because I wanted to fix him as well. But I didn't say anything. I'm like, he knows those things. And then later I told him about it. He's like, yeah, that would not have helped at all. But I just sat there, right? And I thought that was cool.
Yep. So in James 1:19, it talks about everyone should be quick to listen and slow to speak. That is a challenge. But by listening and giving your attention, it shows that you matter more than whatever else I'm doing. I know one of my kids, he once took my face, so he was talking to me, so he's here, and he's talking to me, and he grabbed my face, and he turned it to him so that we're now eye to eye, and then he started talking again. He's like, he wanted my undivided attention. I was listening, but my eyes were wandering I don't know where, and I just thought it was so interesting, and that would be something that means so much for my spouse. That look at me, acknowledge me, don't be distracted by your phone or whatever else is going on. There's a guy walking over there, hey, how's it going? It's like, no, we're talking here right now. And that's sometimes for me a bit tough to ignore my surroundings. We go for a walk sometimes in our neighborhood, and there's a lot of neighbors. They like to chit-chat as much as I do sometimes. And you know what, that's sometimes hard because she has to say, can we just walk and just we talk? And so sometimes I have to learn to just kind of, hide some of the things and just be less distracted and focus on her because it is good for her. It helps her. It just gives her that little oomph. It gives her that joy and just refreshment. She's not asking me for all day, every day, full attention. Just some time every day that I just give her my attention without a distraction. Ephesians 4:15, it talks about speaking the truth in love. Truth hurts. But how you share things, how you talk about things plays a big difference. When you're talking about hard subjects, you know what, to share it with gentleness, with grace, not overbearing. A big thing that I have a tendency of, my volume gets louder. And as soon as my volume turns up a little bit, I'm not angry, I'm not yelling, but that's what she's interpreting. It's like, I'm now upset, I'm angry, but it's like, no, I just want to get expressive, I get a bit louder. But when you speak gently, you talk gently. Herman and Helen were sharing a little bit about this yesterday. Herman would come in, and Helen would be like, just sharing some things, and Herman's just kind of, and a wall gets built, right? And it happens, depending on how that interaction happens. If a wall gets built, you're not going to get through. You're not going to connect. You're not going to communicate. You're not going to be able to talk about. But difficult conversations that need to be had. Talk about things that are hard, that sometimes you just want to glaze over or forget about that they're not there. We need to talk about those hard discussions. Like things that we sometimes don't talk about is our finances, right? We need to be in sync and communicate. Well, what are we doing? What is our agenda? What is our goals? And everybody is in a different position on those things, but what are we doing? Family relationships. Are you having trouble with the in-laws? Does she know that you're having some trouble with the in-laws, that you're having a hard time connecting, communicating? Would it offend her that you're not best buddies with her side of the family? I'm not saying anything. I appreciate her side of the family, but I'm just giving illustrations. Sometimes you butt heads, right? You're not connecting, and sometimes it'd be good to share with your spouse. Like, I need to talk to you about how things are going. How when we go to these events, how I'm trying to process the day, how I'm spending the time there. It's hard for me, and sometimes by her understanding, maybe she'll have some insight on how to maybe relieve some of the tension and take some of the pressure off. Personal issues. We all struggle with personal issues. But what better person to share your challenges with than your spouse? Right? Be an open book. Like, as a guy, it's hard to share personal struggles, challenges, because your pride is kind of in the way a little bit. But when we get it out in the open, right, and we bring it to our partner, you know what, we have somebody to, maybe just even that listening ear. It's the same way that she doesn't want me to fix things, but just listen. Maybe sometimes it applies for us, but we're too proud to try it. Who does household chores? Talk about it. I would like you to clean up the clothes beside your bed every day. She sent me a video the one time. This is an embarrassment on my part. And I was at work, and I watched this video, and she's just walking around my side of the bed. She's just, wow. 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 I looked at it, and I shared it with the coworkers. And it's like, yeah, this is not cool. There was probably 8 sets of clothes spread out across the floor and on chairs, and she's helped me to get a bit more neat and tidy, and sometimes she just lets me my space like that, and it's like, okay, you know what? I need to step it up. I need to take care of my stuff a bit more. I need to make myself more presentable. I need to take showers a bit more frequently. It's just, we talked about that, right? But anyways, but we talk about these things, right? You know, honey, I would really like if you were to shower a bit more frequently. You know, some people would be offended by that. But if she does that in a gentle way, right? Not when she's already upset, right? But already talk about it before a wall gets built or bitterness or things like that.
Yeah, and for myself too, I tell Isaac the hard things. Sometimes I almost get like a knot in my stomach, but I'm like, no, he's not going to be upset at me or think it's weird. I bring up the silliest things sometimes. I'm like, I remember the one time there was something I had been struggling with, and it was mainly a thought, and I struggled with it, and I couldn't put my finger on it. I'm like, what is wrong with me? I think it was something along the lines where I was struggling, where I'm like, what if I would cheat on Isaac one day? And it sounds so silly, and I was so embarrassed. I'm like, I should just tell him. I'm like, oh, I don't know. But with praying and everything, I finally just told him. He's like, you're only human. Like, he's like, it's fine. The enemy wants to put thoughts in your head.
Not saying it's fine she'd cheat on me, but just some of the embarrassing challenges or just the weird thoughts that we have, right?
Yeah, and it was like an attack from the enemy. I couldn't get rid of these thoughts. I'm like, of course I won't. I have Christ on my side. I have the Holy Spirit, but I don't know why and what. But do you know that after I talked to him about it, and he's like, you're right, Dad. Like, he wasn't upset. He was like, it was wonderful. I completely stopped thinking about it, and it was gone. And yeah, just sometimes the hard things. I sometimes want to avoid it if it's something between us or whatever it may be. But I know if I wouldn't talk about it, I would build a wall, and I would be bitter. I just would be. So just mainly being bitter over things and building a wall would be if it's between us, right? And even other hard things. About our kids, having teenagers, and sometimes it's like, I think I just share all the hard stuff with having teenagers, and there's so much good. He reminds me, yes, it's hard and some of these things, but there's also so much good, right? So it just helps so much if we talk about all of the things.
But we're always coming back to events like this, resources, messages, like there's a lot of resources out there. If you don't remind yourself over and over, we get busy, we forget, and all of a sudden we're in a place, like, how do we get here? Janetta has always been passionate about marriages and things like that, and from early on when we got married, like if there was a marriage seminar or something going on, she's like, we have to go. And it's like, really? But usually when we were there, and God's like, you're always encouraged and challenged, right? And it's like anything, right? You got to stay at it. You got to keep working on it. You got to remind yourself, what is your focus? How am I going to love my wife, right? What am I doing? How am I behaving? And so yeah, stay on top of it. Psalm 141, verse 3, it says, set a guard over my mouth, Lord. We are so quick to speak. We are so quick to lash out. If all of a sudden our emotions get a hold of us, we say things that we wish we wouldn't have said. Because once it's said, you cannot take it back. The damage is done. Forgiveness can be had, but that's so hard. When you spend a lot of time with someone, you're going to be at it from time to time. Some more aggressively than others. But if you can learn, when all of a sudden you notice tension is a bit high, and you want to say something, remind yourself, it's like zip it and hold that thought, because what you're likely going to say in the moment is probably not going to be good. But you often only realize that after you've said it. But if we can remind ourselves, I need to be careful when I open my mouth. And you know what? It's like, and if we can ask God, it's like, God, help me to answer my wife. I need to address something, but how do I respond to this? And if we ask the Holy Spirit to come and guide us in our thoughts, in our words, allow God the opportunity to help us love our wives. On our own, we fail miserably. I think most of us can acknowledge that we screw up, we say things and do things, but we have a helper. We have one that is there to help put things in our mind and help us overcome things. And if we ask God, it's like, hey, I need help with this. I'm boiling over right now. I need grace for my wife. I need to calm down. And very often stepping back or just biting your tongue, don't try to defend yourself. Things will usually resolve differently than if you allow the engagement to continue.
Yeah, I definitely say things way too often before I speak, or, to pray before I speak. I agree with Isaac. I forget. And I often say, I was saying before, I say the hard things, but I also say the unnecessary things sometimes. I say the negative things I wish I didn't say. But one thing I've learned from 2 Bible studies that I've done, one was from, I did a study on the book of Esther, and one from Abigail. And both of them, they didn't even have godly husbands at all, and they learned to hold their tongue and not speak. I was just so blessed by that. I'm like, I can do that too. And like Abigail, when she had gone to feed David and his men, and wanted to tell her husband about it later that evening, but she did not. Her husband was drunk. She waited till the morning. And Esther, Haman, this evil guy, wanted to kill all of her people, and she had a banquet with the king. And instead of just blurting it out like, do you know what Haman wants to do, to my people? But she just said, I would like it if you would come to my banquet again tomorrow. And then later, the way it all played out, it was like it was scripted, right? It's a beautiful story. And I'm like, they knew how to hold their tongue. I can too, right? And my husband is a godly husband. He isn't even an evil drunkard. I just thought, wow, of course I can hold my tongue. And then another thing is, one thing I have learned is to be grateful in marriage. I want to be grateful in all my life, but especially in marriage. It helps so much if you're a grateful person. I used to think I was a grateful person until I read this one book. It's called Choosing Gratitude by Nancy Lee DeMoss, or Nancy Walgamuth now. And she talked about how anybody can be thankful. People that aren't Christians can be thankful. Anyone that has a good day can be thankful. But when life is hard and things are not the way you want it to be grateful, then that's truly a thankful person, right? And I was just like, oh God, help. I want to learn and become a grateful wife. It can just help him so much.
Yep. So when you speak, clarify what you're saying. Don't assume they understand what you mean. Because when she speaks, there's a term. She speaks in pink, and I translate in blue. And so when she says something, I will misinterpret it, and I might be saddened. I might get upset. Who knows? Depends on what was said. But if she hasn't clarified, then maybe ask her to clarify. Because often, let's say she says something. If I go to her, it's like, I heard what you said, but this is what I'm understanding that you said. Right? And so if I tell her this is how I'm translating what you said, it gives her the opportunity to address it and maybe share it in a different way. But if I don't give her that opportunity and I walk away and I chew on that and I feel offended, I'm upset, why would she say that to me? Like that just builds, right? And the bitterness sets in resentment. But I've noticed that I do this. We get into a thing. I'm upset. She's upset. And I'm getting more upset. And I'm just you get upset with your spouse from time to time. right? But then I walk away. And I've said things, she's said some things, and it just kind of builds. I walk away, and it's like, oh, God, help me with this one, right? And it doesn't take long. And all of a sudden, it's like, you know what? It doesn't matter if you were right or if she was right. Your tone could have been different, right? But anyways, what happens is I might come back. I'm feeling like we need to resolve this, but I come back to her. I'm still upset. But it's like, when you said that, this is what I understood you said to me, right? If I would have done that right from the beginning in a calmer tone, guess what? We could have saved ourselves a lot of this frustration and headache. And so assumptions are a dangerous thing. There's so many things that happen when you assume that you wish wouldn't have happened. And so if I can, let's say she says something to me, just right off the bat, say, hey, you know what? You probably mean something different, but this is what I'm understanding what you're saying. And so we can remind ourselves of that, and I don't know, we can save ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah,
That hurt.
I definitely assume way too often instead of clarifying. Say we want to have a date or whatever, and I might only say some of the things because last time we did it a certain way. He already knows because that's what we did last time, and I only said half of it, and I think, oh, he will know. And he's like, no, I'm not that smart. You got to tell me. So I'm learning to just, because way too often I think it in my head and I don't say it, and I assume he will already know, right? Because we might have done this or that one time or another, and I expect it. But he's like, no, you have to tell me these things. So working on that.
Yeah. So, and there's 4 C's that are very destructive in a relationship. Criticism. Criticism is so easy to dish out. You know, what are we saying about our spouse? Contempt. Control. Giving the cold shoulder. It's so easy to give a cold. When you're upset, they talk to you, you don't respond back. You don't interact. You can. It's weird how you can feel it. You can sense it. They're not saying anything, not doing anything, but you can sense that there's this coldness coming. And these are things that we work on, like how are we viewing our spouse? How are we talking about them? How are we controlling their lives, right? Are we guiding? Are we encouraging? Are we directing? Or are we telling them, you're going to do this, like this, and you're going to do that? And are we treating them like our teenager with a curfew and all these rules? Or are we working as a team and trying to figure out, well, what works for us in our marriage? Like, how do we want to do things, right? Like, sometimes to have an understanding, it's like, instead of, this is what I want, it's like, you know what, hey, honey, I would really like if you were to do this. Instead of dictating it to her, I can say, it's like, this is something that it's important to me. Is this something you would consider? Right? We can have dialogue. I don't need to be a dictator. Things don't end well with dictators. And if you want a flourishing relationship, don't control your spouse. And another thing is, guess what? If God is in your life, and the Holy Spirit's working in your life, guess what? If conviction needs to set in, guess who's going to pour out the conviction? And just let you know, hey, Isaac, what you said to your wife there, what you told her, that's my daughter. You know what I mean? Guess what? You're not at peace, right? And you go over, and it's like, you know, honey, I'm sorry that I made you do those things, or said these things, but anyways, it's so easy to do the negatives. You have to work to do the positives. It doesn't make sense that it's like that, but if you work towards more of the positives, and allow God to work in your spouse's heart, allow God, if there's things that bother you, like you talk about things, but also allow God to do the work. Allow God to do the transforming work, because He's the one that has renewed us. He is renewing us and turning us into this person that He wants us to be. So your tone, your body language, those are huge in those things, right? You watch your tone, and you watch how you, like, you know, when you get eye roll, what does an eye roll mean, right? Like that, an eye roll, that when I get an eye roll, it flares up. She might as well have just slapped me in the face. But you know, there's things, the body language, things that it leaves an impression.
Yes, I have definitely struggled with that. Yeah, we can say a lot by not saying anything, by, the the body language, or my biggest struggle would sometimes be just to not speak if I feel hurt on the inside or whatever the case may be. But I know that is not right. It's not Christ-like, but that's definitely something I have struggled with. But Isaac is amazing at coming and apologizing, and it just melts away.
So Ephesians 4:32, it talks about being kind to one another and forgiving one another. You know, it's talking to everybody, but how much more to your spouse, right? Speak gently. Like, be nice to her. Like, you know what I mean? Be proactive. And forgiving is hard. Oftentimes it's hard. And before, when I was saying, let's say you're in a situation and you separate and you're upset. It's like, I'm right. It's like, I'm standing my ground. I'm not apologizing because I didn't do anything. Like, I don't even know why we're here. But we are, and I'm upset, and she needs to come to me and say, you know what, Isaac, I'm sorry. You were right. And that's where, like, all of a sudden it steps in. It's like, that conviction sets in. It's like, Isaac, you didn't love your spouse there. It's like, even if you are right, that tone that you used isn't right. And guess what? I go to my wife, like, you know what? I could have said that differently to you. Like, I'm sorry for the way I said things. And I'll acknowledge, like, I still think that I'm in the right, but I acknowledge that I could have shared these things better. And guess what? What does she do after that? She softens up. And next thing you know, she comes back. It's like, you know, I could have shared things differently too. Even though we both, in our minds, think maybe we're right, but we could still forgive one another for the tone, for the aggression, bring the mood back down, and guess what? After a few minutes, we're back to being friends again. I know we've had a situation where we're on our way. We got invited for dinner. And on our way, we got into it. And I said to get out to there that we're going to get there. They're going to ask us, how are we doing? It's like, actually not very good right now. I'm upset. I think she's still upset. We're not doing very good. And I told her, this is what I will say if they ask me. I'm going to be upfront. So I said, so we can do something right now. We can resolve this. We can forgive each other. And carry on. And guess what? We talked it through. We toned it down. We got there. We liked each other again. All within 20 minutes, right? Just like that, sitting side by side. Like, whatever the conversation was caused a reaction. We got upset with each other. We said things. But then being realistic and say, hey, you know what? If we want to deal with this, we need to deal with this now. If we don't want to be awkward in front of people. And you know what? We enjoyed our evening, and that was set behind us, and now we have a weird story. Yeah.
Yeah, Isaac is, I have to say, he's more mature, I think, than I am. He will usually be the first to come and ask me to forgive him, and it just means so much. And I think a big thing is just choosing humility, and he is often even right. You know, he really is. But in my pride, you know, I don't want to admit it at the time. And I think pride is just one of the most destructive things in marriages. If we can learn to choose humility and not thinking that he is the issue, but rather, what could I do? What do I need to work on? And then I heard someone explain empathy in marriage one time, like where I would just like look at Isaac and consider his feelings and think, what must it be like for him to live with me? That must be hard sometimes, because I'm not always easygoing. I'm picky. I have a lot of ideas and opinions and things I tell him, and you know, but just to choose humility and thinking, yeah, it's me. It's my own heart that has issues when something is up. It's not him. Our pride always wants to blame the other and that things would be easier if he would only do this, but it's not. It's our own issues. It is our own heart that we have to deal with.
Yeah. So you won't always get it right. Quick apologies and grace-filled responses. You know what? If you can tackle some of those, you'll save yourselves a lot of heartache. That video, is that going to work or probably not? It is? Yeah? Okay, we got a little clip we just want to wrap this up with. Oh.
Do you love me?
Yeah,
Tell me.
I love you.
Oh, that's good. How much do you love me?
Plenty.
Oh, that's wonderful. Did you all hear that?
You know, if I told her that a bit more often, She needs to hear it. She tells me, I love you, and then there's no response back. And it's like, do you love me? It's like, yeah, I love you. It's like, I don't have that need for that affirmation, right, as she does. But she had a few more points there.
Yeah, just something I wanted to share yet is like from a very young age, I would look at couples all the time. I would see my parents. I would see my aunt and uncle. If there was something between my parents, I would notice from a very young age, and I did not like it. I wanted them to have peace with each other. I wanted them to be happy, and they held hands a lot. And my dad would give my mom a kiss, and I just loved it. I loved seeing them. It made me feel secure. So from a very young age, I would notice couples. I would look at couples. My aunt and uncle, they were just such a great example. They would come and do a special number in our church, and they always had such a unity. They would sing together, and I would just sit there and be like, oh, I want to do that one day. I want to get married and sing with my husband. And I had so many ideas, and anything on marriage and relationships back then already, it was just something that always, when I heard it, I'm like, oh, there's something wonderful here, and I can't quite explain it. And there's a verse that I have read in Proverbs before, and there might be like a deeper meaning here than just this, but I just love just simply what it says. Proverbs 30, verse 19 says, the way of an eagle in the sky, the way of a snake on a rock, the way of a ship at sea, and the way of a man with a maiden. There's just something there. It never gets old. I can honestly say in our almost 19 years of marriage, I never get tired of seeing Isaac come home. I am always glad when that door opens. There's just something sweet there. Like, I have never been closer to anyone in my life than my husband, right? And yeah, and I also used to always have all these ideas of romance and things, but what Isaac does, I think, is better than that yet. Like the many times he has shown up for me, and when I've done something or I'm lost somewhere, like a while ago I was lost in Toronto at midnight, and Google Maps couldn't help me out, but Isaac could. He was better than Google Maps. And just the many times a while ago I was having a hard day, I messaged him at work, and I honestly was not messaging him because I wanted him to come home. And he's like, should I come home? I'm like, it's fine. I just wanted you to know. It did not take very long. He came home, and it was so wonderful. I remember the time I broke my toe. It was one tiny little toe, but it was sticking sideways.
The little baby toe on the
And I
side
literally
of your
broke
foot.
it, and I was so... I just called him to let him know, and he came home from work. The times when I have locked my keys in my car, he came from work to help me out. A different time, especially since I didn't grow up here, I remember trying to find someone's house, and I could not find the house, and he came from work to help me find the house. And I have done so many silly, blonde, weird things, and he always shows up, and he has never been upset at me, and I think that's pretty romantic. Anyway, one last thing I wanted to share about this past winter, I had a bit of where I just felt like something is just not where I want it to be in our marriage, and I'm not okay with that. I want us to be at our best. I want us to live the best married life God has for us. And I just remember reading Psalm 23. I was reading it in a different language that day, and it was talking something about, normally the other translation would say, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. In this translation that I read that day, it said, the Lord is my shepherd, I have what I need. And it was just so, so encouraging. I'm like, you know what? Even if marriage isn't always where I want it to be, or we're not there where I would want to be, but God is enough. He's my shepherd. And then further down it talked about how he renews our life. And I just remember praying, Lord, renew us. Whatever it is, I want there to be a freshness, a sweetness. And yeah, I can just praise him for that.
Yeah. And you know what? It's God that keeps us together, right? It's God that helps us to resolve conflict. It's God that helps us to love one another. On our own, we fail miserably over and over, right? But God is the one that always brings us back together. God is the one that brings peace and resolution, right? And without that, it's amazing the world has as many people still married as they do, because conflict arises, difficulties arise, but God brings that peace, brings that unity, and also our focus isn't just for each other, but it's also we're to focus on him. And so if we can keep our priorities like that, remind ourselves, that's one of the reasons why even coming to church Sunday morning, sometimes it's like, I don't want to go today, right? It's so important because we get reminded, right? So we hear, like the message is communicating, we hear over and over, right? God is still sovereign, he's still in control, he's still doing things, and we need to be reminded that God is still in the picture. And so when you show up Sunday mornings, I'm showing up just to remind myself because we are a people that tend to forget. And so we communicate a message over and over, right? And we need that reminder to love our wives often over and over because we get distracted and all of a sudden we don't realize where we're at. And so, but you can go back to it. But anyways, I'm grateful for my wife. She's fought for our marriage a lot more so I guess than I have. But with the church family, with her resources and things, right? Like there's ways that you can learn to do things better. And